to our thesis defense today. Firstly, I want to introduce our group. Our group has 5 members: Miss Trần Thị Ngọc Trân, Miss Ngô Việt Hà, Mr. Trần Đức Mạnh, Mr. Nguyễn Tuấn Anh and me, Hoàng Thị Thảo Phương. And secondly, we would like to thank our instructor, Miss Lê Thị Ong Minh, for her support and her guidance about thesis. Finally, I want to thank the panel of the judges for being here today. And alright, let's move to our topic. Our topic is the impact of financial leverage on firms' performance of food, beverage, and tobacco industry in Vietnam. And in our thesis, each member will present one part, and here is the table content. The first is the introduction. The second is the literature review and theoretical model. The third is the methodology. The fourth is the finding and analysis, and the last is the conclusion and recommendation. And the first, Mr. Mạnh would and thank Mr. Mạnh for general information about this topic and the highlighted information about financial leverage. And now let me turn to the other part of chapter 2. You know, there are many ways to evaluate the performance of a company, but in this research, we just focus on 4 main factors that indicate it. They are return on equity, return on asset, earning per share, and sales growth, and it is related to the financial perspective of the company. Firstly, return on equity is defined as the amount of net income returned as a percentage of total shareholder equity, and it calculated by dividing net income to total shareholder equity of company. And the more return on equity, the better. Secondly, return on asset is also a ratio that investors want to know besides return on equity, and it's understood as how profitable a company is related to its total asset. And the formula of return on asset is calculated by dividing net income to total assets of a company. Thirdly, earning per share indicates how much company earns from its common stock. In another definition, it's a portion of how profit of company is allocated to its common share. And the formula of earning per share is calculated by dividing net income to average outstanding share of company in a period. And finally, sales growth shows the change in the sales from period to period, and it is calculated by using net sales of current period minus the net sales of previous period dividing the net sales of previous period. With all factors that I mentioned above, there are 2 directions of impact of financial leverage on each factor. However, a few research show there is not a clear connection between financial leverage and performance factor. They are positive and negative. And the next part is theoretical models. According to Ken in 2012 and Mahmoudi in 2011, tracks the relationship between financial leverage and firms' performance by using a Pool auxiliary least square on 36 engineering sector firm in Pakistan, and it derives from the first model to use the simple linear regression model. Moreover, one's research in 1999 showed that profitability is the most significant element to determine financial leverage, and after running the Heathrow test, he just that profitability affects negatively to debt to asset ratio. And the next part is the literature gap. In this part, we just identify the resources which are not only unresolved, but whose exploration can meaningfully contribute to existing theory and practice. You know, there are many in Vietnam. The topic of relationship between financial leverage and firms' performance is very popular, and but they just only focus on some industries such as construction, real estate, or securities. Our research will mention and analyze the impact of financial leverage on firms' performance of food, beverage, and tobacco industry to have more knowledge about this topic. In conclusion, in this chapter, we mention and discuss the basic and overall concept of financial leverage, the factors that affect the financial leverage, and impact of financial leverage on firms' performance. Besides, we also present the gap of this discussion, which is previously no thorough research about the impact of financial leverage on firms' performance of food, beverage, and tobacco industry. And finally, we will use data and use simple linear regression model to run, and we check this relationship And that's bring us to the end of my presentation. Next, Ms. Chang will present to you the method that we use to do this decision.